Yeah, so confidence is not about pretending to be something that we're not. This is a kind of a sort of what I might call a sort of white knuckle confidence, where you sort of like we shout at ourselves to be better, or it's actually a kind of self-aggression kind of attempt at confidence. I must be, or I should be, or if only I was something different, then I'd be confident. Or maybe remembering a time when we felt confident in the past and trying to kind of conjure it up. That's not quite it. Noticing how those also rely on the future and the past. So kind of trying to project ourselves into a kind of future state or recapture a past state. Of course, it's easy for confidence to be depleted in times like these, where there are multiple stressors and multiple uncertainties, changes, risks of all different kinds: mental, physical, emotional, financial, medical. And as human beings, we tend to seek stability, which is unfortunate because there isn't any, ultimately. Here we are flying around on a planet at however many thousand miles an hour, and with circumstances inevitably continually changing, which ironically is the only certainty. And yet we are programmed to seek predictability. That's how our brains model. They work on a model of prediction. What happened in the past, will that happen again? And takes a lot of less brain power and a lot less effort to work with a stable situation where that predictive model is more effective than it does to work with a rapidly changing situation. And yet here we are, we live in a rapidly changing situation. And I'm not just talking about COVID here. So it can be jarring when there's that kind of mismatch, even frightening perhaps, particularly when things don't go the way we either want or expect them to go. So how do we cultivate confidence if we can't just conjure it up from the past or pretend that we have it? We can pretend that we have it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll materialize. So I'd like to suggest that we can see confidence not as a feeling, but as a skill. So we might imagine confidence to be feeling strong or capable, and that, of course, may be a result of training in the skill of confidence, but it's not what I'm calling confidence here. Certainly not when we're talking about cultivating confidence. So if we can see confidence as a skill that we train in, it doesn't actually require us to feel strong. So that's a little different from pretending, because we're acknowledging that that we can cultivate confidence without necessarily feeling a certain way. Whereas when we pretend, we try to sort of create a feeling, then we get into kind of a struggle with reality. So something slightly different to that we can actually lean in, if you like, without having to feel a particular way or to try to feel a particular way. So how do we develop the skill? As we develop all skills, through practice. And I've put together just a sort of number of, as I was reflecting on this session a little bit earlier, and I came up with 7 ways that we can cultivate confidence in our mindfulness practice. And this, not saying this is the exhaustive 7, but it's just what sprang to my mind as I was reflecting. One of them we've covered already, which is our meditation posture. We know that how we hold our bodies affects our mental experience. So there's been some interesting research showing how people who are depressed, for example, tend to walk more slowly and with more kind of hunching of the shoulders and with a kind of a lower gaze. And people who are feeling, not feeling depressed, tend to have a quicker and more what we might call confident step, in the sense of upright and sort of taking the space. So, there's an interrelationship between body and mind here. Now, it may well be, of course, that depressed mind is partly causing or leading to the body state, but it could also be that the body state is leading to the mood, or they have a reinforcing relationship with one another. So we can interrupt that cycle by taking a confident posture. And this is one of the reasons why when we're given meditation guidance to, the words dignity come up, sit or be in a posture of dignity. So because another thing that the researchers have found is that if you invite people to change their posture into postures that embody certain moods, those moods are then inculcated. The most famous example is people asked to hold a pencil between their mouth. Do that for a while, and people started getting more cheerful as they were kind of into a full smile. So by holding ourselves in an awake, confident posture, remembering that we don't have to feel confident. So it's a, if you like, an inclination, an inclining of the body to invite this quality. The second way of cultivating confidence in meditation practice is working with the breath, or working with a kind of a particular anchor place. The breath is something that we can trust as an integral experience of being alive. So if we're breathing, we're alive, and if we're alive, we're breathing. So we can trust that. We can trust that if we are alive, we can follow the breath, and we don't need to try to breathe. So there's a sort of perhaps a trusting relationship that we can develop between ourselves and our breathing. Recognize, of course, that there are some people who don't feel that way about the breath, and that's why it can be good to choose perhaps a different anchor place. But nevertheless, it remains true that if we're alive, we're breathing, and if we're breathing, we're alive. So it can be trusted, but it can sometimes require a little bit of a different kind of approach if, for example, you have severe breathing difficulties or have been prone to them in the past. Third way that we can cultivate confidence is working with the whole of the body, and perhaps an invitation to recognize just how fantastic this body is. Not just mine, everyone's. We have here this incredibly complex, I mean, just look at the brain, like how many millions, billions of neurons interconnecting to make, and then somehow consciousness arises out of this. But, going lower down the body, how on earth does the mechanism of breathing actually happen on an autonomic basis, with the heart beating and the blood pumping and messages being carried from, different parts of the body to the brain and back again. Senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, the remarkable fact of the human body and movement. And not only is there movement, but actually conscious control of movement. And the body's adapted to the environment. It's like it's just majestically in tune. So the air comes in and is breathed and goes out again and is adapted to the environment in turn, feeds plants, and back again. So there's this incredible attunement with this body and nature. It's kind of like symbiotic relationship that's evolved. So without anything else going right in our lives, that's still pretty basically good. Just that. And so maybe our bodies are actually these great resources that we can tune into, that we can trust and have confidence in. And many of us will lose confidence in our bodies for various understandable reasons in our lives. When things don't go the way that we want them to, it's easy to forget that even in chronic illness, for example, or pain conditions, or maybe our body lets us down in other ways. So long as we're alive, as John Kabat-Zinn says, there's more right with you than wrong with you. It's just that we have this negativity bias that will inevitably pull us into focusing on what's not going well. For good, again, evolutionary reasons, for survival reasons. But it doesn't tend to lead to well-being. And it's also not an accurate picture of what's really happening. The fourth way of cultivating confidence that I wrote down was working with the mind. So we know that the patterns of our mind, or at least if you come to any of these sessions or taken a mindfulness course, we know that the mind can create some problems for us. Thinking patterns and tendency to project and compare and judge and misread the present based on the past. However, there's no getting away from that. The mind is incredible. The thinking mind is amazing. It gives us great power to project into the future and learn from the past and analyze and make complex choices and arithmetic of different kinds. So we have a huge tool that we can help ourselves to be confident in that. And again, maybe the only creature on the planet that has this certainly in as complex and as evolved a way as we have. So even though it's problematic, it's powerful, and it can help us in many different ways, and indeed does on a day-to-day basis. The fifth, and I'm not saying we have to do anything with the mind, by the way, just recognizing that, same with the body, just recognizing how amazing it is already can be perhaps a source of confidence. The fifth is the environment. So it's the sort of the other side of the symbiotic relationship with the body, that there is air to breathe, water to drink, food to eat. If you've got here this evening, then I'm going to surmise that you have a roof over your head. I can see that you have clothing. You've got an internet connection. You've got sufficient technological hardware to make use of that internet connection and enough financial resources to be able to pay for it. We've got everyone here with us. We've got other people, people from here joining from all over the place. And what about all of those people who actually contribute to all of the things we've talked about already, the people who grew the food or provide us with medical care when we're sick, or have created systems of government and charity and community. So there's a sort of astonishing network of human connectivity of which we are a part, of which we are a part, not apart from, of which we are a part. So there's a kind of we are held in a wider humanity. And I'm not in any way kind of pretending that this all goes smoothly all the time, not at all. But again, to notice what's, what's okay. While there are, many traffic accidents, um, you know, isn't it somewhat remarkable that we managed to kind of get around on the roads or in public transport with actually most times it going well? And this is not to mention your own personal networks. So while not everyone may be able to draw on these easily, some of us may be able to draw on friends and family, maybe support communities of various different kinds, um, schools, and so on. So there's a great, environmental source of confidence. Number 6, so 2 more to go. Number 6, we can help ourselves by remembering it's just this moment. So really taking it one moment at a time. Because it can be very easy to get into a but, kind of like, I'm alive now, but what about tomorrow? I might be dead tomorrow. Or, yeah, okay, well, maybe I've got a roof over my head now, but what about? So if we can keep ourselves in the present moment, and actually that's what we're cultivating the confidence in right now, because actually the future isn't here yet and the past is gone. So this is the only moment that we can cultivate confidence. And actually, if things are basically okay in this moment, that's where we can place or intentionally or intend to place our attention, because so much of lack of confidence, I would suggest, relates to getting caught in our old maps that have kind of evolved out of the past and into the future, which is unknown terrain. So number 7, final one, is the recognition of just how adaptable we are. I've spoken about how there's adaptability over the eons, environment, body, evolution, but even in the short term, who here in February of this year would not have been familiar of how to get on a Zoom call? Just raise your hand. Okay, I reckon that's about 70, 80% maybe. Okay, look, here you all are. Completely just like, I noticed this when I started my last 8-week course. When I did my first 8-week course on Zoom, there was a lot of people who were new to it. And then in the last 8-week course that I started, nobody was new to it. So just in 6 months, look how you've adapted. Look how you've adapted your life to roll with the circumstances. Now, I'm not saying that we all love it, or that we would all choose it, or that we all, want it to continue necessarily. But here we are, having adapted, still alive in this moment, and managing to to be with the circumstances. So, of course, we could give lots of other examples of how we're adaptable, and you may have your own stories of times of great change or need, or maybe you've been through adversities which have meant that you've had to adapt, change your life in ways that you maybe didn't expect to or want to. But here you are, here we are. So if we can recognize the huge resources that we have available to us, that are not something that we have to strain for, they are already within us, then maybe that can be the seed of the confidence that grows from it. And I've noticed that a lot of these areas that we can cultivate confidence in are areas that we tune to in our meditation practice, our meditation with the breath, meditation with the body, meditation of the world around us, taking it moment by moment and watching for change. and practicing transforming ourselves, because we can, transform ourselves. Perhaps, this happens happens automatically with when we're presented with different circumstances. We just kind of have to kind of learn how to use Zoom or whatever. But we can also cultivate it more consciously through practice, which brings us back to that first kind of point of we can train in this. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to feel a certain way. We don't have to be confident in order to cultivate confidence. But maybe over time, as we shift our worldview and recognize what we actually have available to us, the most complex, amazing, and unfathomable thing in the known universe, human mind and body. That's not a bad start. So that's all I'm going to say about confidence. And I'd like to invite you to join me in a meditation practice that maybe just can drop us into some of these themes a bit more deeply, if you will.